Good morning, Broncos fans. I am by myself today. No Scott. He is traveling to London, so bear with me as I try and get everything done on my own this morning. So hold tight, and we will officially go live in just a few seconds here. All right, we are officially live. So welcome to Legends of Mile High. I'm Thomas Hall. And like I said, I am on my own today. Scott is in London or traveling to London, and will not be here. So you know, give me a little slack as I try and push all the right buttons on this on the podcast to make sure I see everybody's comments and whatnot. So again, our this show is Legends of Mile High, where we talk about history and current events. And today we are going to dive in to deadline trade rumors and if there's any value in those trades, potential trades, what we think possibly the Broncos can get for these players. So that's going to be a fun one. So throw your comments into the chat with some different scenarios, what you think they're going to get for draft picks, and I will calculate it with a trade calculator I created to that will weigh whether or not you can get the probability of getting impact player in return or a primary starter. So that'll be fun. Also, stay tuned because the Mile High Legend today will be talking about Louis Wright quitting football. It's an interesting story, so stick around till the end. Have a little fun with that. So, good morning, and I just want to say good morning to all the Broncos fans out in the United Kingdom, the ones that have traveled out there from the United States. Many of them I've known and see, interacting with the with news media and everything, and also those that are out there. Which brings me to my next point and topic is next week. I have invited Colin Cronin from the Irish NFL show to come join me to talk about Broncos in the UK, how the game was, what the atmosphere was like, those type of things. So join next week so we can so you can hear Colin talk a little bit about what it was like having the Broncos in London, playing the Jaguars, and more information about the NFL. So don't forget to tune in next week, next Friday, same time. Let's jump in the chat and see what we've got here. We've got Dom coming in. Good morning, Dom. Thank you for joining the show this morning. Good morning, Thomas, Scott, and Broncos country. How do you feel about Peyton backing up Nathaniel yesterday? Denver Broncos for life. Well, I'm going to say good morning, Scott, too, but he's not here. So thank you for the comment, Dom. I appreciate you coming in this morning bright and early from Facebook. I really appreciate the support that you give the show. So, yeah, again, Scott's not here, so bear with me as I fumble through the comments. Yeah, I mean, Peyton, George Peyton backing up Nathaniel Hackett. I'm assuming you're talking about George Peyton. That's what he has to say. So I'm not going to read too much into it. My guess is he does support him. Obviously, he hired him and he hopes that he's successful. But he also knows that the Broncos aren't doing well, and Nathaniel Hackett bears a lot of that burden for not doing well, not getting Russell Wilson going. Play calling has been suspect. Some of the the miscues and mistakes can be laid at the feet of the head coach. So, yeah, I don't read too much into it other than that's what he has to say. And my guess is if Peyton, if the Broncos can't turn this around and they don't show any improvement, Peyton's got a tough decision to make, and he's not afraid to pull the trigger on letting him go, even though he did say he's fully supportive of him, which like I said, he has to say that. He can't come out and say, yeah, he's been pretty poor and we're thinking about firing him. So it is, this is what it is. But I do believe that he does have some, at least supporting him for now. Obviously, I probably will till the end of the season. I mean, it would be tough to see a mid-season change, at coach. Even though Nathaniel Hackett has looked pretty bad, but they can always turn it around, and who knows? But thank you again for that comment. Appreciate you coming in this morning, Dom. So the main purpose of the show is to really kind of talk about the trade rumors at the deadline, and the Broncos obviously are not doing well. So the rumors are pretty rampant about fire sales and things like that, or who they can trade to get draft picks for. And a lot of that has to do with how poorly they're doing, obviously, but it also has to do with the fact that the Broncos don't have that many draft picks next year because of the Russell Wilson trade. So George Payton made that comment about how he'd like to get a lot more picks before the draft comes around in 2023. And he hasn't made enough moves to really bring in a lot of those draft picks. So it's that's sorry, excuse me. That's that's weighing on everyone's mind. So my guess is, you might see a trade, but the rumors are Bradley Chubb. They're talking about Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Dalton Reisner is now coming up in rumors. Albert O is definitely one that isn't getting any playing time. So there's a few rumors out there. So let's take a look at some of them and just kind of guess what we think that they might be worth. And Dom, thank you for coming back in. The only one that's worth anything is Chubb, and that may be, but what is he worth is the big question. And people have been talking about the rumors and saying that there's an NFL GM that came out and said gave him a great package. And what that package really is, we don't know if it's a fair package or if someone's just saying that they gave out a nice package. So we'll see. And next plan B, NFL trade deadline, November 1st. It's coming right up. So, and thank you for coming in, next plan B. I appreciate it. That's right. I mean, we only have a couple days till we find out what is actually going to happen. Is this a lot of hoopla, people talking, trying to drum up some some good article clicks, or is there some real serious inquiries into these players? And I think it's probably a little bit of both for sure. So, but let's talk about Bradley Chubb right out of the gate. I mean, Dom's right. I mean, Bradley Chubb seems to be getting the most attention from teams. The other players, not as much. So what do you think Chubb is worth? I mean, we saw a trade happen for the deadline just now with Quinn going to the Eagles. Now Chubb is in a completely different situation. I mean, Quinn is kind of on the downside of his career, still playing pretty dang well for sure, but he has his contract for a few more years, and Chubb's doesn't. Chubb is going to have to be traded to a team that's willing to sign him to a long-term contract because his contract's expiring. So if someone trades for him, I don't. Chubb doesn't have any no trade clause, so he can be traded to wherever the Broncos want to trade him to. But if we think about what happened with Von Miller, they're probably going to send him to a contender and someone who's willing to, maybe work with Chubb to lock him up long term. If that team is willing to part with some significant draft capital, they have to be willing and knowing that Chubb's going to be with them long term in order to do that. So if you think about it, say he's worth a first round draft choice. I don't think he's lived up to his first round billing. He is definitely an impact player when healthy, but he's not been able to stay healthy. And right now he's playing probably some of the best he's played, early on in the season that he's played his entire career. I mean, he's been to a Pro Bowl. He was in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So he has talent, definitely. Health has been his issue. So if he gets a first round draft choice sent to the Broncos, and he goes to a contender, that means that the Broncos are going to get a later area draft pick for him. To get an impact player in picks in the history, so for the last 10 years of the draft, if you look back 10, 12 years, there's a 0.3 probability. That's pretty low of finding an impact player. So if you're getting rid of Chubb and you have less than a third of a chance of finding an impact player, that's not great value. I think the Broncos would need to ask for a little bit more to really make that worthwhile. And I think they can, to really want to trade Chubb, I'm going to use the draft calculator that I've been talking about. I think you need to at least get a first and a third for him to really make it worth the Broncos' while, unless they just have no intention whatsoever of re-signing re-signing Chubb at all in the offseason, which may well be. I'm going to jump and grab another comment. Ashish KCE. I appreciate you coming in. I have not seen you on the show before, but thank you for coming in. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about Louis Wright, story about Louis Wright quitting football. So it's an interesting one. So stick around. But the comment is, hi, I've heard Peyton talk yesterday about Hackett. Do you think Hackett will come back next year if Broncos finish the season with 5 wins and the offense not showing signs of scoring more than 20 points? No, I don't. If there's no improvement, if we continue to watch the Broncos do the same thing over and over again, and Hackett just came out and said it. It's status quo for this game. And that's, man, that's hard to swallow as a Broncos fan, watching him say that or listening to him say that it's status quo. So if nothing happens, they traded for a future Hall of Fame quarterback, Russell Wilson, and he's playing poorly. Hackett's not done his job. If they continue to do the same thing and there's no signs of improvement, I don't see how Peyton can do anything but let him go. He has to show improvement over these last, the last stretch of this game coming out of the bye week. He's got to make some improvements, and I think that starts with relinquishing play calling duties, because what he's been doing is not working. So give it to somebody else, see what happens. So yeah, no, I don't think so. I think if it continues the way it is, and thank you for that comment, Ashish, I really appreciate it. But if it continues the way it is, I think Peyton has to make a move there. I mean, George or Hackett will kind of force his hand at that point. So, all right. We got another comment. Crypto Sam, thank you for coming in, Crypto. Appreciate the comment. Why would we trade a core piece of our defense for an unknown? Do you even trust GP to make it a good pick? And that's what I'm talking about right here. Like I just this calculator that I built is based on actual players that have been drafted. So if you're an impact player, you're an all-pro, Pro Bowl type player who makes an impact, or you can look at it as a primary starter. And that means someone who's started at least 50% of the possible years that they have been in the league. And you're right. I mean, why would you trade it for an unknown? And that's just what I just said. Even if you got a first and a third for Bradley Chubb, an impact player when he's healthy, you have barely over a 0.37% probability, or 3.37 probability of getting another impact player, and you're well over half of getting a primary starter. But that's not what you want to get from Chubb. So the only reason they would trade him, Crypto, is if they have no intention of keeping him around next season. They're going to let him walk. But then you got to think, okay, so if they do let him walk, he's going to get a compensatory pick probably. So what that is, I don't know. I mean, I think the Broncos may be free agency buyers this year offseason coming up. So what the offset may or may not be, I don't know. But right now, if Chubb walks, you're looking at probably a 3rd round compensatory pick. So you're going to have to get something better than that in a trade package to let him walk. But again, young player, you don't want to trade away your key young players that are coming into their prime, really. And Chubb is kind of doing that. He's a core player that's going to have experience, leadership. It's going to be a tough one to let him go. And I don't know why they would. I know that Baron Browning is coming on, looks great as an edge rusher. Now he's hurt. But Randy Gregory, you can't trust that he's going to be around. I mean, he's missed more games than he's played, and they just spent a bunch of money on him. And what are they going to have? They get rid of Chubb, and Gregory goes down. They're going to have Barry Browning and Nick Bonito, who, frankly, when I watch the games and I see 42 out there, I'm like, who's the safety? And then I'm like, oh, wait, that's Bonito, because he looks small. He doesn't look like he's, right now ready to hold up as a full-time edge player. He's a decent pass rusher in his situations, but he's not ready to set the edge. So you're definitely right. I appreciate that comment. And then another one, next plan B coming back in. Don't trade anyone on the defense. And you're right. I mean, the defense is not the problem. And I just wrote up an article about the defense on Mile High Huddle. So go to that site, check it out. It talks about how well they're doing compared to what those teams they've played have done when they haven't played the Broncos. And they have far and away outperformed what they should have done against these offenses. one knock that I have, and it's in the article, it's kind of nitpicky, but it's true. Like if they want to really be an elite defense, they need to get more takeaways, and that will help the offense. Whether the offense does anything with it or not is a different story. So, Anthony, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. We couldn't get a first for Chubb. We couldn't even get that for Miller. Yeah, I mean that's true. Like you got to look at what the I appreciate your comment. You got to look at what the compensation has been coming in. Unless somebody is desperate to get Bradley Chubb and they're willing to cough up a first, it's hard to see that they're going to get a first. And even if they do get a later round first round pick, I just showed that it's the probability of getting an impact player for that pick is pretty dang small. So you're getting rid of a player, a known quantity, and that's why I really have to shake my head at these people that are always saying, "Oh, well, let's trade so we can get more draft picks." You realize you're trading away known quantities for an unknown. So you're not the value that you're getting for these players when you know that this player is what this player is capable of it's incredible. So blowing it all up and getting for draft picks, let's trade everybody for somebody else's garbage or whatever. It just boggles my mind. Once in a while, it's there to you need to rebuild. Fine, I can understand that. You got to get rid of a bunch of heavy contracts and you just want to rebuild and get some young players and start anew. That's a different story. The Broncos cannot rebuild. They are stuck with Russell Wilson. They need to start winning now. And if they start trading away their players for unknown quantities, you're right. It's going to be, they're going to be worse off most likely. And, there's always injuries to consider. I mean, Javonte Williams looked like a great pick by Peyton, but here we are. He's hurt, and the injury that he had is it looks pretty serious. So I don't know if he's going to be able to return to that level that he was at after that injury. So, there's a lot of unknowns to consider. But yeah, I mean, Bradley Chubb, to make it worthwhile, they're going to have a massive package in trade to make it worthwhile. I like this comment. Darren Hull coming in. Our next QB is senior or freshman college. Arch Manning. Are you listening? That would be great to get Arch Manning. I mean, to kind of have that bloodline on the Broncos after Peyton came in and kind of and really turn the franchise around. But I don't see it. They have unless Russell Wilson continues to be terrible and they have to be pretty bad in order to get that or trade away their entire draft to get it. So thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Steve Lazuski coming in. I seen a Vikings article saying they should trade for PS2. Please tell me that wouldn't happen. I appreciate you coming in from Facebook, Steve. Thank you for the comment. Absolutely. That's just a ridiculous. I don't know why anybody would even put pen to paper to write that article. There's absolutely no way that Peyton is going to trade away his first round draft choice, who looks like the best cornerback in the league. It's not going to happen. I don't know why. I would be embarrassed if I wrote that article because that's unrealistic. And you're right. It's just it's not going to happen. They would have to give up way more than the Vikings are willing to give up for Patrick Surtain, and it just seems ridiculous. So I appreciate you coming in with that comment. All right, Clayton Huron, thank you for coming back in from Facebook. Seeing you on here a few times, I really appreciate the support. He says, "Morning, smash that like button and share. Let's ride." Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Yeah, please do like the show. Share it with your friends and family. This is a fun show for me. I do it because I love it. And I hope that I can bring some great information, especially historical information that's kind of going away. People aren't really, keeping those old memories alive. So that's what I'm here for. So definitely share it. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming in. And then you come back in, ask me what kind of coffee I have this morning. Just a regular old, I don't even know. I think it's Pete's coffee. So black coffee, but I appreciate it. I don't have my Broncos cup this morning. I grabbed a different cup this morning. So, but it's still waking me up. I mean, it's early here, and I appreciate people getting up in the morning and being here. If you do, appreciate it, and so thank you very much. Thank you for the comments. I really appreciate it. All right, now let's talk about some other potential rumors that we've heard. Jerry Judy is another one, and I'll tell you what, Judy has definitely underperformed, but he is a key part of this offense for sure. So parting with him would be a bit of a, I don't know, it would be a tough one to swallow because even though he's performed poorly, drop passes, mental lapses, he's got some looks like possibly some disgruntledness. You're not going to get much from him for him. I mean, the Giants just traded their receiver, first round draft choice, underperforming to the Chiefs. They didn't get much for him. So I don't know what you're going to get for Jerry Judy. So again, somebody might be desperate, or another team might be really liked him in the draft and wanted him, so they're willing to give something up. But say, I mean, even if he was able to get a third round pick for him, I don't know what you would get. Maybe you'd get higher than that, but a third round pick seems like that might be a reasonable draft choice. But if you guys have your own ideas of what they would get, throw it in the chat, and I'll look it up on my. I'll put it into this draft calculator. Tell you what the value is in the draft and the probability of getting an impact player. So I don't see Judy as an impact player. I see him as a primary starter, which he is. Even if you got a third round pick, you still 0.3 probability of getting a player that is a primary starter. And that's still low. I mean, the draft value chart that they used to do about trading picks and everything, it's pretty outdated. I mean, but looking back in the really taking real numbers of these players who have been in the league and what they've done by which round they were drafted or which area of the draft they were picked, it's a small percentage of getting a primary starter, just a primary starter in the third round. So for me, Jerry Judy, even though he's got those issues and those problems, to let him go, you have to just be done with him. You just have to be completely done with Jerry Judy and say, you know what, we don't want him on the team anymore. We're willing to give up him for a third round pick. And I don't know if I see that. I mean, there's still so many issues going on with this club. Peyton and Hackett both need to have it turned around. So I don't see that happening, but maybe so. Crypto Sam coming back in. What about trading Sutton? He's worth a first. I love Sutton, and I would hate to see Sutton go. And I appreciate the comment coming in. That's an interesting thing that you say. And somebody else had an interesting comment about Simmons. But the thing of it is you don't want to get rid of Sutton. I mean, Simmons is a different story, maybe, but I mean, I think Sutton has a lot of value. And I think that once the offense changes, I think you're going to see him really starting to take off. So I just, I don't know. It'd be a hard one to swallow. I don't know if you'd get a first for Sutton right now. Maybe he's been playing pretty solid, but he's also kind of been disappearing in certain games. So I don't know. It'd be a good question. But are you, I'd like to see Sutton stick around. I'd like to see the offense change, and I'd like to see Sutton start to take off a little bit more. But you're right. I mean, nobody is. I think the only player really. There's only a couple players that are not tradable, and that's Patrick Surtain and Russell Wilson, and that's mostly Wilson because of his contract. He's untradeable. So everybody else really is tradable. So I mean, others have contract impacts as well. So obviously there are some things that you have to weigh, but everyone's tradable. But also at the same time, why trade the core players if you can't blow it up again? You just can't blow it up. All right, we got another comment from Next Plan B saying trading Melvin Gordon will be a start. I think he's bringing bad karma for this team. Yeah, I mean, Gordon's kind of still here because he has to be. The injuries have just decimated the running back group, and so he's kind of here. I don't think he's going anywhere because he has to be, but I also think he's not going anywhere because nobody's going to trade for him. Who's going to go trade anything for Melvin Gordon? I mean, maybe a seventh rounder. I don't know, but I don't see why anybody would trade anything of value for an aging quarterback or aging running back with no deal. Just wait unless they're desperate. Again, teams have to be desperate. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if there's any value in him. So he's probably worth more as just a body on the team than he is trade. But if someone's going to willing to give a 7th rounder, I would take it. I would take it in a heartbeat, and just bring in some more running backs from the street, because Melvin Gordon was a good player, but he's been terrible this year. And Dom's coming back in. Thank you. I think the front office is done with Jerry. Needs to mature way more. They may be, and that's the problem that I've talked about with this team, is the lack of leadership in the players on this team is showing, and part of that has to do with nobody going to Jerry Jeudy and saying this needs to stop, this disgruntledness or whatever it may be. I just don't see it happening. He's over on the sideline, chirping away to Melvin Gordon, obviously upset, and everybody's upset. They're losing. But I just, there is no leadership on this team right now. No player leadership that I can see. I mean, Justin Simmons is a good leader. He's shown to be a good leader, but he was gone for 4 weeks on injured reserve. I just, he's working his way back in. Maybe he's the one that's, my personal opinion is, where's Draymond Jones? He's the one that should be the leader, on this team too. And I just haven't seen it. And maybe I'm missing something. I'm not in the locker room, so I can't, I can't say that, but it seems like there's a lack of leadership. And that's, part of why I didn't like that, Von Miller got traded away. Obviously, he wasn't in the plans. They didn't want to keep him going forward. I think that was a mistake, and I voiced my opinion on that. But he was a pretty decent leader on this team, and he learned that ability from Marcus Ware, who came in and really saved his career. And Von Miller could have been valuable not only on the field as a player who's been there before and done it and makes impactful plays, but also keeping this team together when it's struggling. So. Yeah, I just I don't know. Maybe they are done with Jerry Jeudy, and maybe they will take a 3rd rounder, but that's pretty low value for Jerry Jeudy. All right, the next rumor is KJ Hamler, and what are you going to get for KJ Hamler? I mean, coming off an injury, hasn't really done much in this league. You're not going to get much for him. I mean, he could be a valuable player in the right situation, but I mean, even if you were to get a 4th rounder for him, and maybe say you get a 4th and a 7th, I mean, your ability to find even a primary starter for those 2 picks is a 0.16. It's tiny. So again, like if you're just getting rid of players to get rid of them, it's a head scratcher. You're not going to get the value in the draft. And now I know that there's this scenario where if you get enough picks that you can package stuff up and move up for the player that you want, but you're going to have to get a lot of draft picks to move from the 3rd round all the way up to the 1st round to find an impact player. So, it's one of those things where, is it worth it? And I'm not seeing that it's worth it. Now, the one player that absolutely needs to be traded is Alberto. He has to be traded. He's not playing. He's a healthy scratch. He's obviously not in the plans for this team. Send him somewhere else for whatever you can get for him, so that he can get some playing time somewhere else where a team can utilize his skills. He's the one player that I look at and say, that is a player that just has to be traded. He just has to be. And if you can get a 7th rounder for him, you get a 7th rounder for him, and that's it. I mean, you might get more for him. You might get a 6th rounder. I don't know, but Alberto needs to be gone from this team, and not because I don't like Alberto, and I don't think he's got great athletic ability, but it's they're not using him. Healthy scratch, he's done. He's done with the team. So I mean, maybe they can wait and see if someone will pick him up in the off season. I don't know, but they're gonna have to cut him, and they're not going to get any compensatory picks for him. So it's trade him while you can and move on. And it'd be best for both the Broncos and Albert. I mean, really, it will be. So, I don't get into there's a lot of people piling on Russell Wilson right now. It's funny doing his workout in the airplane or whatever. I don't really care. The thing about the professional football players is they're different than us. They are they are the elite players that made to the NFL. They've got different ways of doing things. If he's working out on a plane, who cares? Why are people up in arms about it and things like that? I don't buy into that nonsense, and a lot of people love it right now. A lot of media love this right now. Russell Wilson's not doing well, so let's grab anything we can and get some clicks and get people talking about it, and it's fine, whatever. I mean, I don't pay attention to it. Um, but what I do pay attention to is the fact that he's struggling and something needs to change. And that's a fact. So hopefully we'll see it in London, like see stuff clicking. I really hope that happens. I don't know if it will, with Nathaniel Hackett saying status quo. But as we all saw with Brett Rippon starting, nothing really changed. It was the same old stuff. So, that falls on Hackett. But I do think that there is some chemistry issues with the receivers and Russell Wilson, but let's maybe try running the ball a little bit more, do something different. I don't know. Anyway, Dom, I appreciate the comment again. You're right. Just go out and win. Bunch of Broncos country needs it. We are going crazy. Absolutely. And this is a rough stretch. I mean, people that have been fans of the Broncos for a long time have not seen this long stretch of losing. A lot of us suffered through Super Bowl losses, but the team was still competitive. They never had this long stretch of losing. I mean, you have to be a fan back in the early 70s and the 60s to have seen this type of losing. And the problem is we expected much more. Got a quarterback, had a solid team that won 7 games the prior year with terrible quarterback play, and now we're watching it again, and it is rough. It is rough. So thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. Go out and win, and that will change the narrative. If they start winning games and they turn this around, people aren't going to be piling on anymore, and we're not going to have to worry about this nonsense. So Texas Lean, thank you for coming in, Texas Lean. I have not seen you on here before, so I appreciate you coming in to the show, putting a comment in there. I always thought Simmons was always overrated as a leader player. Most of us don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, but when they are both, is more apparent, obvious. My opinion, by the way. Thank you for the opinion. I appreciate it. I think he's a pretty darn good player. I don't know. I mean, he seems like a pretty good leader, but like I said, he hasn't been around the team that much. I mean, yeah, he was on IR, so he could be around the team, but he's not playing, not practicing. So it's tough to be a leader if you're not out there doing it with the rest of the team, right? You're not out there playing, you're not out there doing it. So maybe you'll see him start to come on a little bit more, but everybody has their opinion on Simmons. I like him as a player. The knock that I have on Simmons is, he doesn't make enough impactful plays, at least this year. I mean, he has in the past, but he's been on the team since they've lost, right? They haven't won anything since he has been on the team. So, I don't know how to describe it, but if you've not done it before, if you've not won before, how effective are you, as a leader to say, oh, this is what you have to do? Well, who knows? How do you know? You haven't done it before. So he's a good player, though, for sure. He's one of the better safeties in the league. Problem is, I don't think that the safety position is that impactful on the field, no matter how great you are. I mean, unless you're like someone like Ed Reed, who's got taking away the ball often and giving your your offense another chance, then yes, I agree. But it's that's the issue that I have. So thank you for that comment. I appreciate you coming in. Dom's coming in. I've been a fan since 1992 when I was born. Oh, I appreciate that's awesome. You've been around for the good times for sure. Man, I'll tell you, being a fan in the early 80s, watching this Broncos team go through those Super Bowl losses, oh man, it was rough. And I'm here and I will argue with anybody. The Broncos should have won that Super Bowl in '86. That first John Elway going to the Super Bowl. They totally lost it in that first half. They were moving the ball. They had every opportunity to blow that game out of the water, and they just didn't do it. On the 1 yard line, couldn't punch it in with some questionable play calls, running it right into the, like somebody said to me on Twitter, one of the best linebacking core in history, which is probably true. I think that was his name's Aaron, great Broncos guy. John Elway not seeing Steve Watson wide open in the end zone, nobody on him, tried to force it into Orson Mobley. That should have been 24-7 going into half, and it would have been a different ball game. But anyway, what ifs, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, thank you for coming in. There's been some struggles that we've seen with this Broncos team. I don't know. I just have this feeling that they're going to turn it around somehow. If it's not this year, it's going to be next year. They're going to turn it around, and we'll see some success. We have to. All right, Todd Lear. Trading away our star players is to turn around and attempt to draft the replacement is the formula of a failure team. And I thank you for coming in, Todd. I appreciate that. And that's what I've been saying, right? Like, trading away known quantities for unknown possibilities is a tough pill to swallow for me, because the draft historically has not been an accurate thing. No matter how much these teams poke and prod and test and run them through, take these players through the motions, there's injuries, there's people that you just can't tell are going to be, there's busts that because they don't want to work hard. And you can't, no matter how athletic they are, you can't tell that typically. So you're right. Like, getting rid of great players or good players in hopes of finding something in the draft, and it's a tough pill for me to swallow, because the entire draft is a crapshoot. It's less than 50%, or it's around a coin flip of finding an impact player in the first round in history. So I just don't get it. I have a hard time with it, and the only reason you get rid of them is if they're just no longer in your plans whatsoever, right? Like, you're just done with that player. You don't want him around. And that's what Peyton obviously had with Von Miller. He was done with Von Miller for whatever reason, and he just wanted to get what he could get. He had no intentions of re-signing him, and that's why he traded him away. Whether it was a mistake or not, which I believe, that they were done. So that's when you trade someone away. If you still think Chubb and Judy and KJ Hamler and these players that are in Reisner, that are players in this are going to be in your future, then you don't trade them away unless you get a desperate team willing to give up a lot for that player. And I just don't see it. I don't see them giving up a lot for any of those players. Chubb being the one that you probably would see a lot, I guess, if someone's desperate to get him. But like I said, they're going to be willing to give him a long-term contract, and someone who has not shown a lot of health over the years, that's a questionable call. So, all right. Well, thank you. And again, I apologize. Scott's not here, so I've been trying to do the comments when I can see them, and this was my first time doing it solo. So I hope this worked out okay, and I hope everybody had a good time with the comments and whatnot. So again, I'm going to start wrapping up this show like I always do. I'm going to talk about give you the Mile High Legend story. So. But if there are any other I'm going to check for any other quick trade comments in here. If not, I'm going to wrap up the show. So I appreciate everybody that came in. And don't forget, next week, Colm from the Irish NFL show will be on this show talking and hopefully describe what the atmosphere was like, in the UK leading up to the Broncos game, during the Broncos game. And then I'm sure he'll have some insights into this Broncos team that is, going to be a lot different than mine, or a different perspective. So anyway, don't forget, next Friday, same time, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. Let your friends and family know. And so I'm going to wrap up the show with the Mile High Legend. So Louis Wright was the original shutdown corner, long before it became a term to describe great cornerbacks. He's one of the best defenders ever suit up in the orange and blue. But did you know that he quit football in college? fortuitous turn of events got him back on the gridiron and catapulted him into a long career in the NFL. And Louis Wright was in Denver was incredible. I mean, he was a key member of the Orange Crush, which was a historically great defense, and he was the second best player on that team, defender for sure, behind Randy Gradishar. He was so good that he was rarely thrown at, essentially taking away one side of the field, as one would expect with a shutdown corner. Even Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Fouts said as much when he said that we would shy away from him, and that was not easy because he was on their left side, which was our right side, and it seems like you throw more passes that side of the field. So legendary quarterback Dan Fouts said as much. And Louis Wright was really built to be a cornerback. Even in today's game, if you wanted to build a prototype, it was Louis Wright. 6'2", weighing in at about 200 pounds, with incredible athleticism. He was a track star at San Jose State, so his speed was without question. He was a savvy player who was excellent in press coverage and rarely beaten by receivers. And he was a sure tackler, never afraid to come up in run support. He's a member of the 1970s NFL All-Decade team, multiple-time Pro Bowler when it meant something. He was an All-Pro. And in 79, he received votes for the Defensive Player of the Year award. So he really should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But as those longtime Broncos fans out there know, players from the Mile High City have been historically overlooked, especially past players. But this amazing career almost never happened. While he was attending Bakersfield College, he rarely got a chance to get on the field playing football. In fact, he may have played only 6 or 7 snaps in the entire season. So he really thought his football days were over. He transferred to San Jose State with a track scholarship, and he basically traded in his football cleats for track spikes. And he had really given up on football. But fate had other plans for Louis Wright. A new football coaching staff came in to the university, and they wanted to find players with speed. So where did they go? They went to the track field. A new defensive backs coach attended track practice one day looking for that speed, and he stumbled upon Louis Wright. And then after he learned that Wright also had football experience, the coaches convinced Louis Wright to give football another go. And he became a star at San Jose State and went on to be a first-round draft choice for the Denver Broncos in 1975. Had that new staff at San Jose State not went looking for speed, Wright would have never gotten back on the field, the football field. And Broncos fans would not be witness to the first shutdown corner who paved the way for other greats like Champ Bailey, Deion Sanders, and Darrell Green. Instead, Wright became one of the greatest defenders in Broncos history and is immortalized in the Broncos Ring of Fame. And hopefully he will become a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame someday. And that is your Mile High Legend. Thank you for joining, and have a great day, Broncos fans.